I'm JBS. Here to talk about the feminism theory in film. This theory is very simple. The film is done for a male audience, and women have to treat women then feel secondary. So the idea is that everything that happens is for male pleasure or male influence. So there's male producers, the main characters are male, the audiences are male. So films target male audience rather than female or equality. I'm going to look at this three different frameworks. Mise en scene, which is scenery, props, acting, etc. This is basically the stage of a theatrical production on the set, and the representation. This is how different ethnic groups are represented. This could be ethnicity, gender, politics, beliefs, anything. A good example of this would be James Bond, as this couple demonstrate.
Because I think you're a sexist, misogynist dinosaur, a relic of the Cold War.
Dink, say goodbye to Felix. Man talk.
Point taken.
Not quite 007.
Liar.
After me.
I never miss.
James Bond is a great style of this theory because with the Bond girls just being there to look pretty, not doing anything sadly, they give women terrible costumes, stupid names for 20 films from 1962 to 2008 before they even questioned it at all. But this is based on the books, so it might be why it's done like that in the books, because the books were written years ago. But the movies didn't have to be this way, but they still are and were. And while times have changed, sadly things aren't getting better that fast. It took many years to get to the stage where women, the Bond girls, were even given normal enough names like Eva Moneypenny or Madeline Swan. For a while they had the names such as Taffany Case, Solitaire, Mary Goodnight, and my personal favourite, Dr. Christmas Jones. Now I'm going to look at two different movies in the James Bond franchise mostly, which are Skyfall and Live and Let Die. Comparing these to the Kingsman franchise. In Live and Let Die, there are many problems with representation, like how nearly every black character is on the side of evil, relies heavily on blaxploitation, which are meant to be for black audiences, but mostly in blind stereotypes, with the only good characters on the side of good that are black, existing to either get killed or motivate James Bond. It also is one of the worst movie plots I have ever heard. The Bond girl's name, by the way, is Solitaire. Solitaire is a psychic. That's tarot cards she uses, whose powers only work when she's a virgin. The villain of the movie is called Mr. Big, and he threatens to remove her powers. Thankfully, this didn't happen in the movie, but she does lie to James Bond and then loses her powers. Nothing happens to James Bond at all for this. So if we look at this compared to the male gaze theory, this theory has three different parts to it. Who's the target audience, who the producers are, and who all the main characters are. So, first of all, the main target audience are 25 to 34-year-old men. All producers were male, and apart from the Bond girl, all main characters are male. Meaning that while this movie is James' story, Solitaire is there just for the ride, and used for James to rescue. This means this movie supports the male gaze theory. With the movie trying to target a male audience, it stands for that reason. The presentation will not be strong. She's first seen from behind a curtain or silhouette. That indicates that her looks are more important than who she is. She dresses in a red dress, jewelry, and heavy gold makeup. This draws the eye, making her an object of sexual simulation. In the movie, the moment that really drives home who this movie is for is when James Bond is in a bathtub, shaving, and then he smokes a cigarette. These are two very masculine tasks, stereotypically. And then he lights the snake on fire with the cigar. The snake is represent his golden gun. That's a joke meaning dick. Now, if we look at Skyfall, the main themes of this movie are death and resurrection. For once in Bond history, this applies to more than Bond himself. While Bond fails, gets shot, struggles to survive, look at how this affects the people in his life. This is mostly just M, the only person he actually has who cares about him. She has to mourn the loss of Bond as she assumes he died. The MI6, the agency she gave her most of her life to, also she loses her headquarters. RIP. For the first time, M is stuck and in a state of uncertainty. While Bond fights to get himself back in the fighting shape, M has to fight the MI6 and everything she loves and cares about back in place. Now, this means their plots are parallel, with both of them fighting to stay alive in a world that they don't truly belong in anymore because they're both dinosaurs in this age. In the finale of the movie, this is done in Bond's childhood home, with him and M being there for the final fight. This represents coming full circle, old age, where he grew up. This is represent old and young coming together. Now they use the weapons they have to fight are a shotgun and knife. forcing them to use these old methods that are not outdated, making their old age an asset to them rather than a burden to them. The characters that really matter in the movie are Bond and M. The Bond girl in this, Eve, doesn't get much to do. She's mostly a plot device, if I've ever seen one. It opens with her shooting Bond, doesn't do much. Then after she injures him, she gets the plot in motion, she even shaves him at one point. Turns out she's already the money penny, so it's not great for her. Fleming created a sexist character in Bond. Now, Bond seems to around women, never talks to them again, but this is a personality trait that he has. This is who he is. Now, you could say this is a good representation if this is just a movie about a sexist man, because the movie does appear sexist, but this is from the point of view of a sexist character, a sexist main hero. This case would be a lot stronger if the names of the Bond girls were more normal, like Elliot Reed. So I feel like Kingsman do a good job of showing how spy movies could handle things differently. While they made Eggsy a great character, who's a great representation of how spies could act and how Beyond could be, sadly the females aren't as good as treated. Because in the first movie, there's this girl called Eggsy, who's amazing. Like, she is a great spy, always a hard worker, dedicated. She's amazing. She's even better than Eggsy in that movie, but sadly in the sequel they kill her off immediately. They make the audience feel sad for Eggsy and to drive the plot to America. In my opinion, the Kingsman movies are what the Bond movies should be more like, treating female characters like equals, treating them better, giving them actual roles. While this movie sequel doesn't have as good representation as the first one does, the first movie I feel like it's a perfect representation of men and women being equal. Well, the first movie is a glowing light, the second one isn't, so I know what you're wondering. Is there any movies that are great spy movies for representation of male and female equally? Yes, there is. It's called Spy Kids.